should go?
Oh, of course I do. I think Stephen Miller is one of the. Not only does Stephen really want to just paint a picture, he's not worried about substance, he's more worried about form, but I also think that he has an outsized influence over the operations of the cabinet. And I believe we've got qualified cabinet members there that sometimes are doing less than what they want to because of his direction and his outsized influence. He's a big problem in this administration. He has been from the beginning. But Gnome is a Senate-confirmed cabinet member. She should have been independent. I believe that Mark Wayne will be independent. I believe that Mark Wayne will be driven by data. He'll leverage law enforcement resources, expertise, people like Tom Holman to get things right. And if he doesn't, we'd hold him accountable. But I have a lot of confidence in my friend, and I'm looking forward to him getting this department under control so that Republicans can seize an issue that helped us get elected, strong on the border, strong on deportation, strong on the rule of law.
One of your points of contention with Secretary Gnome was her handling of the aftermath of those fatal ICE shootings of 2 American citizens, specifically how she jumped to conclusions before their deaths had been investigated, calling them domestic terrorists. I do want to play for you how Senator Mullen reacted just hours after Alex Preddy was shot and killed.
A deranged individual that came in to cause max damage with a loaded pistol with an extra mag that was completely loaded, was shot and killed. How much more does this got to go on before the Democrat leaders there take responsibility for their words?
So obviously there's no evidence that Alex Preddy was deranged or that he came to cause maximum damage with a loaded pistol. He had a license to carry, or that any Democratic leader was responsible for this tragedy. Does that give you any pause?
It gives me pause that you had people like Stephen Miller calling the shots that actually I believe that maybe Christy Gnome acted on. It was Stephen Miller that was talking about a terrorist brandishing a gun. It was Stephen Miller who said it was the position of the United States that we should go after Greenland. It's Stephen Miller that's been repeatedly responsible for embarrassments for the President of the United States by acting too quickly, speaking first and thinking later. I think if Mark Wayne I don't think Mark Wayne goes to the podium and repeats something that Stephen Miller says. I think Stephen Miller's demonstrated he too is out of his depth, and I think Mark Wayne will learn from that.
The civil war inside Trump's MAGA universe has its first public casualty, and the blood is on Stephen Miller's hands. That's the explosive reality ripping through Mar-a-Lago's gilded halls this morning, following the brutal, orchestrated firing of Trump campaign spokesperson Christy Gnome. According to multiple sources inside the campaign, speaking on condition of anonymity, the axe fell late last night. The reason? A vicious behind-the-scenes power struggle with Miller, the architect of Trump's most hardline immigration policies, personally lobbying the former president to remove Gnome. This isn't just a staff shakeup. This is a declaration of war. The core conflict tearing the movement apart is now out in the open. The ideological purists versus the political operatives, and Miller just fired the opening shot. Let's break down the 5W1H of this political hit job. Who? Stephen Miller, the relentless nationalist whisperer. What? A calculated, successful purge of a dissenting voice. Where? From within the very heart of Trump's 2024 re-election machinery. When? Sources confirmed the decision was finalized within the last 48 hours, with Gnome informed late Tuesday. Why? Because Gnome represented a faction seen as too moderate, too willing to play by the old political rules, a perceived threat to Miller's vision of an uncompromising populist crusade. How? Through relentless gaslighting and back-channel maneuvering, painting Gnome as disloyal and out of step with the MAGA base. The vibe here is pure Hollywood thriller meets reality TV backstab. Imagine the scene, the palatial backdrop of Mar-a-Lago. All fake gold and desperate opulence. The players move through the rooms like characters in a prestige drama, but the dialogue is all Twitter fingers and paranoid gossip. Miller isn't just a staffer. He's the season's villain you love to hate, meticulously eliminating his competition one by one. And Gnome? In this narrative, she's the shocked contestant getting voted off the island, blindsided at the tribal council she didn't even know was happening. The tone is sarcastic, direct, and action-oriented. This isn't politics as usual. This is Survivor, Palm Beach edition, and the immunity idol is Donald Trump's fleeting attention. The fallout is immediate and radioactive. According to a report from Axios, the firing has sent shockwaves through the campaign's remaining staff, creating an atmosphere of pure, unadulterated fear. Who's next? That's the question on everyone's mind this morning. The sourcing is clear. A person familiar with the discussions. 2 advisors briefed on the matter. They all paint the same picture, a campaign at war with itself. The lead is simple. A key spokesperson is out, ousted in a brutal internal power play. And just when you thought the chaos couldn't get more intense, enter Stephen Miller, the architect, the true believer, the man who's been waiting in the wings for his moment to unleash his vision of an American dystopia. While the campaign was busy eating its own over Susie Wiles, Miller was quietly drafting what one insider called a blueprint for mass deportation on a scale we've never seen. This isn't just policy, this is a declaration of war. According to a bombshell report from the New York Times, Miller's plan involves mobilizing the National Guard, creating massive detention camps, and targeting millions for removal. The sourcing is chilling. Documents reviewed by the Times. People familiar with the discussions. They lay out a scheme so radical, so legally dubious, that it would instantly plunge the country into a constitutional crisis. The lead is a 5-alarm fire. Trump's top immigration advisor has a plan that would militarize immigration enforcement and upend American life. But here's the plot twist. There's a mole in the operation, a deep throat with a vendetta, and her name is Christy Gnome. You remember her? The former White House communications official turned full-time truth bomb dropper. She's not just leaking, she's on a strategic mission to destroy Stephen Miller piece by piece. Her POV is simple. This man cannot be allowed anywhere near power again, so she's gone full scorched earth. To Axios, to CNN, to anyone who will listen, Gnome is painting a portrait of Miller as an unhinged ideologue, a bureaucratic terrorist whose own colleagues reportedly find him toxic and detached from reality. She's not whispering in corners, she's shouting from the rooftops, providing detailed accounts of his manic plotting. It's a character assassination played out in real time across the headlines. The tone from her sources is dripping with contempt. One former official told Politico, and I quote, "He lives in a fantasy world where the laws don't apply to him or his ideas. Gnome's goal is to make Miller so radioactive that even Trump has to think twice. She's turning his greatest strength, his fanatical loyalty to the hardline agenda, into his greatest liability. And Miller? He's feeling the heat. You can see the desperation in his spin. He's hitting the airwaves, doing the full media blitz, but it's not playing defense. Oh no, it's a frantic, aggressive offense. He's gaslighting the entire nation. On Fox News, he's calling the detailed reports pure fiction, a hoax perpetuated by the Open Borders lobby. He's trying to reframe his draconian blueprint as simple law and order. But the pacing is off. The energy is frantic. He's over-explaining, his voice tightening, accusing journalists of treason for even reporting on it. And then, it happened. The MAGA civil war we've all been waiting for exploded into the open. This wasn't just background noise anymore. This was a full-blown 5-alarm political fire, and Stephen Miller was standing right in the middle of the inferno, holding a gas can. The firing threat wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a headline, and Miller, in a move of pure, unadulterated political kamikaze, decided to face it head-on. He didn't retreat. He charged. He went on a rival network, his face a mask of defiant rage, and declared the leaks about his potential ouster a coup attempt by globalist sympathizers within Trump's own orbit. He pointed the finger directly at Jared Kushner, at Ivanka, at any Republican who had ever muttered the word compromise. He was drawing a line in the sand, and on live television, he dared Donald Trump to cross it. The message was clear. Fire me, and you fire your base. You fire the revolution. But here's the explosive commentary, folks. This wasn't bravery. This was a hostage situation. Miller was holding the MAGA agenda hostage to save his own skin, and in doing so, he forced everyone to stare, without blinking, at the corrupt, rotten core of his entire project. Let's break it down. The analysis is devastating. His so-called agenda was never about law and order. That was the branding. The POV from inside Miller's blueprint reveals it's about power. Raw, unchallenged authoritarian power. It's about creating a system where the law applies only to the people he and Trump deem undesirable. The reports detail plans to weaponize every federal agency, not just ICE, But the DOJ, the FBI, even the National Guard against American citizens and communities. It's a blueprint for a purge. And by fighting so viciously to stay, Miller confirmed every single terrifying allegation. The political collapse was immediate and spectacular. Moderate Republicans, the few that are left, ran for the hills. Key suburban districts that Trump desperately needs? Polling showed support evaporating by the hour. Major donors, the ones who write the checks for those massive rallies, started hitting pause. They saw the chaos, they saw the unhinged infighting, and they saw a campaign that was starting to look less like a political operation and more like a sinking ship where the rats were now publicly eating each other. Meanwhile, the Godzilla of Truth, Congresswoman Gnome, was feasting. She released another statement, dripping with sarcastic venom. She said, and I quote, "Mr. Miller's melodramatic performance only proves he knows his ideological poison is being rejected by the American body politic. The fever is breaking and the patient is trying to attack the doctors." The legacy of Jason Miller, the architect of the MAGA media machine, lies in smoking ruins, not at the hands of the so-called radical left, but devoured by the very monster he helped create. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Within 48 hours of Miller's meltdown, 3 major county MAGA chapters in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona publicly disavowed his Global Patriot Project, calling it a grift and a distraction. But the real dagger came from within the palace walls. Sources close to the former president's inner circle, speaking on condition of anonymity because they are not authorized to discuss internal deliberations, revealed a chilling directive: cut him loose. Trump's team, seeing the polling nosedive in key districts, decided to be the surgeon. They didn't issue a noble statement about principles. They just stopped returning his calls. His name was quietly scrubbed from an upcoming campaign advisory memo. It was a death by silence, the most potent form of excommunication in Trump's world. And Miller? He's now trapped in a hell of his own design. The alternative ecosystem he nurtured now feasts on his carcass for clicks and rage engagement. This is the explosive endgame of a movement built on perpetual anger. It has no ideology, only fuel, and when the primary targets are temporarily out of reach, it turns its hunger inward. It consumes its own. So, what's the final condemnation? Miller's legacy is a cautionary tale written in fire. It's proof that you cannot ride the tiger forever. You cannot monetize madness and expect to stay sane. You cannot point a finger of accusation for years and then be surprised when that same finger, multiplied by millions in an online mob, points back at you. The call for accountability? It won't come from a court of law, but from the court of public opinion he helped weaponize. It's a poetic, brutal justice. He is being held accountable by the exact standards of ruthless, evidence-free condemnation he promoted. The wheel has turned. As for the MAGA movement, this is what eating your own looks like. It's not a debate. It's a feeding frenzy. 1 minute you're a general in the army, the next, you're rations. The infighting isn't a bug. It's the core feature. Because when your entire political project is based on the idea that everyone is out to get you, eventually, you have to believe it about each other. The screen fades on this chapter with the sound of silence from Mar-a-Lago and the deafening roar of a digital mob tearing apart its former champion. The story ends not with a bang, but with a savage, self-cannibalizing whimper. And the only thing left is the lingering question hanging in the toxic air. Who's next on the menu?